it does take a distinctive person to come up with an alternate universe, especially one filled to the brim with terrifying figures. After all, we always fear what we do not understand, and given the fact that we live in times when our fears tend to seem larger than life, just the mere thought of the horrors of the Cthulhu universe and their ability to wipe out the whole Earth do make our fears look every bit real as they feel. In today's video, we will be taking a look at the 10 most terrifying and underrated Lovecraftian monstrosities that are bound to give you goosebumps. We suggest you leave the lights on tonight and pull up your blankets for this one. Before we get into our explanation, we do have one very small request. If you enjoy our content, then please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Now let's begin. Hastur. Surprisingly, Hastur was not even created by Lovecraft in the first place. He made his debut in Ambrose Bierce's short story titled Hayata the Shepherd as this big-hearted, benevolent god of the shepherds, and eventually got reimagined by Lovecraft, where he falls in the category of the Great Old Ones and happens to be the half-brother of Cthulhu. As the offspring of the all-knowing, all-seeing, and all-powerful Yog-Sothoth, Hastur's real form will always be kept in the dark. However, he has invariably been imagined in these two primary ways. The first form happens to be this amorphous octopod-like being, and the second form makes him appear as this humanoid figure in a masked yellow robe with gigantic tentacles. Addressing those who are wondering, yes, this is how Hastur earned his nickname, the King in Yellow, amongst a horde of other aliases. Hands down one of the most mysterious Cthulhu mythos deities. Hastur can easily be associated with spiritual corruption and madness inducement, and mind you that his primary goal is to corrupt and destroy lives. No wonder he is often noted as a deity of corruption with the capability to creep into your dreams and concoct unthinkable, twisted horrors from beyond. Hastur has many followers, both human as well as otherworldly beings, and he is certainly not to be treated lightly. Tsathoggua, also known as Xothoqua. The Great Old One here was introduced in Clark Ashton Smith's short story titled The Tale of Satampra Zeiros. But if one is to look at Tsathoggua first appearance in print, that happened in Lovecraft's novella The Whisperer in Darkness. Mind you, there is quite a bit of a difference when it comes to Smith and Lovecraft's version of Tsathoggua, especially in terms of appearance. Smith visualized Tsathoggua as a mix between a bat and sloth-like creature, whereas Lovecraft opted to go ahead with the creature resembling an amorphous toad. The differences are carried out further with regards to Tsathoggua parentage as well. Smith believed that his creation was the child of the Great Old One, Gizguth, and his mate Xitlzimgi, the matriarch of the swarm, whereas Lovecraft determined that Tsathoggua was the offspring of the deity Yeb. Speaking of Tsathoggua traits, he is exceedingly lazy, which means he is usually always sleeping and does not fancy leaving his chambers till the time he feels seriously threatened. Please know that he will not spare his awakener unless the latter offers a sacrifice. This godlike being also has the ability to change his form, or in simple words, he has some excellent adaptation skills that help him adjust to whatever environment he happens to be in. Tsathoggua current abode happens to be the Black Realm Inkai, which also houses his servitors, the formless spawn and the cave-dwelling Vormis, to carry out his bidding. Gtahnathoa. Meet this astronomical, abysmal abomination notorious for his hideous appearance, one who will have anybody who gazes at him, or even his image for that matter, permanently disabled for starters. Next, he will have the viewer's skin turn hard, more like leathery, but at the same time keep their brain intact, thereby making the latter fully aware of things that are happening to them and eventually make them go incurably mad. No wonder Gtahnathoa is represented as the Dark God or the Daemon God, and why wouldn't he be? After all, he does happen to be the spawn of Cthulhu and the seemingly female entity Idia. While it is true that Gtahnathoa cannot really be described, the godlike monstrous being somehow does appear to be this amorphous blend between an elephant and an octopus. As the creation of Lovecraft and Hazel Heald, Gtahnathoa was led to Earth by the aliens from the planet Yuggoth way before civilization. The aliens had constructed this mountainous fortress in the Kanay district of the supposed lost continent, Mu, and confined Gtahnathoa there. After the aliens' departure, human civilization began, leading to even the humans putting Gtahnathoa on a pedestal and offering him sacrifices to not let him out of his crypt and cause mayhem. Ithaqua. Ithaqua goes by many names, some of which are Wendigo, Deathwalker, God of the Cold, and Windwalker. This Great Old One here actually looks like a human to an extent, but happens to be gigantic in size, possessing glowing red eyes. A creation of Lovecraft's literary executor, August William Derleth, Ithaqua is stated to stalk the Arctic region looking for prey. Believe us when we tell you that he is what mainly influenced the Native American folklore of the Wendigo. Add to this the Native Americans also being the first ones to encounter him in the Arctic area. Oh, mark our words when we say that you do not want to bump into Ithaqua at any cost, because doing that will only be your worst nightmare. To be honest, you might want to consider yourself fortunate if he just decides to kill you, and while he will do that in the grisliest manner possible, it will still be a lot better than him attempting to reproduce with you. Brian Lumley's Titus Crow, which is basically a Cthulhu Mythos story arc, has Ithaqua as the dreadful god of the icy world of Berea, who is seen coming to Earth every now and then so as to forcibly take his victims back to his world and make them fearfully worship him. Ihort, the god of the labyrinth, appears as this humongous, oval-shaped, gooey blob with countless skeletal legs. And if you thought we were done with his description, no, we are not. The highlight of his appearance is the solitary fact that he has eyes all over his gelatinous body. Earlier, when we referred to Ihort as the god of the labyrinth, we did so primarily because he dwells within a deep maze of vast, underground caverns and tunnels in England. This wicked great old one here has his priorities straight. Any human who happens to cross paths with him will be given a choice: an instant brutal death or get impregnated by him. If you choose the second option, rest assured that the inhuman monstrous offspring will kill you after it matures. Basically, you are doomed both ways, and there is no getting out of the clutches of Ihort if you stray into his territory. A peek into the Holy Manuscript, the Revelations of Glaki, gives us a glance into a catastrophic future ahead of us. Apparently, after humanity lands in a heap, Ihort's offspring will take over the world, thereby replacing humanity. Bakrug. Bakrug rightfully deserves a place in this list of the underrated monstrosities of the Cthulhu universe who can wipe out the whole Earth, also known as the Great Water Lizard. This lake-dwelling great old one here happens to be worshipped by the seemingly amphibious humanoids Thumaor, in other words, beings of Ib. Now it so happened that Bakrug rested underneath the inky depths of a lake that served as a border to the cities of Ib and Sarnath. But with the humans of Sarnath massacring the Ibians and stealing the statue of Bakrug that the Ibians worshipped, the otherwise peaceful reptilian god awakened and completely destroyed Sarnath to the extent that there were not even the slightest traces of any ruins left behind. As for the Thuma race, it is reported that they were able to repopulate Ib once again and happily live there undisturbed. Abith. This outer god here is also addressed as the source of uncleanliness, and if you were wondering why, well, that is because Abith happens to be the ultimate etymology of all things miscreation and abomination. So what you are looking at is this gross, mutable mass that is dark gray in color and dwells deeper in the caverns of Yaqua underneath the volcanic Mount Vormithidrith. Abith perpetually has these disgusting-looking monsters forming inside his gray mutable mass, and once they pop out, they are always seen moving further away from Abith. Now these monsters can have literally any form. They could be unstructured blobs, just body parts, strange-looking humanoids, to even hideous-looking mutants, and none of them resembles the other. Speaking of Abith, he tends to be cannibalistic in nature, as he is often seen consuming his children, grabbing them either by his tentacles or limbs, for that matter. Abith's crooked and cynical mind also aids him in communicating telepathically with others around him. Ugolinek. This great old one here goes primarily by the names the Defiler and God of Perversion and Depravity. However, please remember that our deity here is way above any kind of perversions that human beings can remotely even think of. Ugolinek is stated to live behind a particular brick wall in an undisclosed area, and he aims to escape his interdimensional imprisonment and then destroy everything in his path. Of course, this includes driving humans utterly mad. And in case we have not mentioned this before, he does have a rather particular interest in humanity. This dreaded Ugolinek has the ability to make people read forbidden literature, which leads to him influencing his victim to read a chapter of the Revelation of Glaki that has his name. That is how he gets called in the first place, post which he would ask the one who had summoned him to become his priest. Dare the summoner disagrees, and he would end up becoming Ugolinek's meal. Do not be shocked to learn that his victims have often been children. Ugolinek also has the power of possession, and after he possesses his potential hosts, he appears as an exceedingly obese man without a head or neck but with two mouths, each on his palms. Mordegion. This great old one here often appears as this colossal worm with an array of tentacles surrounding him all over. Add to this his signature fanged maw as well. While this usually makes him appear quite wrathful, Mordegion is otherwise a very peace-loving god whose only demand is to consume the bodies of the dead. He is worshipped by many human cults as well as the ghouls. Often described as a living cloud of darkness, Mordegion can thicken and coalesce himself entirely or at times just portions of himself to serve his needs. One of the reasons this necromantic god here is also referred to as the symbol of death is because when he appears, everything warmed gets sucked into his body, and the surrounding temperature immediately gets dropped by many degrees. And when it comes to Mordegion attacking, he usually prefers to engulf his victims by sucking away their life force and then dissolving their bodies. In the end, there's nothing left of his victim. Ubasathla. So how exactly does one describe this monstrous deity here that happens to be an outer god? To be honest, It is pretty difficult because this being is a giant protoplasmic mass resting deep somewhere beneath the frozen Earth. In fact, Ubosathla is known to be the actual creator, or should we say, progenitor of life on the planet. The being happens to be in the process of perpetually creating primordial single-celled life forms, but the irony is whatever Ubosathla comes in contact with does not get to live another day. Ubosathla is reported to guard a set of tablets that have knowledge of the Elder Gods, and while many sorcerers have attempted to steal them, no one has been successful yet. Also, as per legend, Ubosathla is destined to take back every living thing on the planet, and one can only hope that this day never comes. Marvelous verdict. Anyway, with this, we finally come to the end of our video here. Well, what do you guys think of these monstrous horrors of the Cthulhu universe? Who intrigues you the most? We'd love to know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Also, stay tuned with us as we promise to come back with more exciting content. Till then, goodbye, and have a nice one.